The cameras may have stopped rolling, but the storm was only just beginning. The whispers were moving through Atlanta like fire leaping from one house to another. And the streets buzzed with a heat that could shake love and hip-hop to its very core. What had started as an off-camera moment was no longer confined to a closed set. It was everywhere, slipping through mouths, spilling into group chats, spreading on blogs that never slept. And at the center of it all was Yandy Smith, a woman known for her polished calm, suddenly unraveling with words that could not be unsaid. The accusation she hurled was not light, not petty, not shade meant for ratings. No, she pointed her finger directly at Kirk Frost's own son, and the word that fell from her mouth was killer. Even though no proof had been offered, even though not a single piece of evidence existed, the damage was immediate. You don't call someone's child a killer in public, even off camera, without lighting a match that could burn everything down. The weight of those words was too heavy to remain contained. It spilled through the cast, through the crew, through everyone who had witnessed the raw explosion. Some tried to pretend they hadn't heard it, others repeated it under their breath, with wide eyes. And standing next to Yandy, giving her words power instead of silencing them, was Mendeecees. He didn't shout, he didn't rant, he simply nodded. His quiet agreement like a hammer to glass, shattering the room's fragile balance. For Rasheeda, it was unbearable. She stood only a few feet away when the words were spoken, and witnesses described her face collapsing in slow motion. Her confidence shattered, her composure ripped away. Tears filled her eyes and her voice broke into a whisper heard even through the chaos. Not my family. Not my son. Those words cut sharper than any accusation, because they carried the ache of a mother being forced to hear the unimaginable, tied her child. She wasn't defending Kirk. She wasn't defending herself. She was begging for her son's name to remain untouched. By such darkness, the crew was paralyzed. Some reached for their phones, too stunned to remember whether the cameras were rolling or not. Others looked away, as though avoiding the sight could erase it from memory. And then there were those who, despite knowing how reckless it was, leaned in to listen closer, hungry for the mess that was unfolding before them. The energy in the room shifted like a building cracking at its foundation. Nobody knew whether to defend, deny, or stay silent. Yandy's voice rose again, trembling with emotion but unshaken in conviction. You don't understand, she snapped, her eyes blazing. People are whispering already. The streets are buzzing. The fans are talking. I didn't start it, but I hear it, and I'm not going to sit here and act like it doesn't exist. Her words hit like bullets, each one piercing deeper into Rasheeda's chest. Witnesses said she shook her head violently, tears streaming down her face, pleading through sobs. Why would you say that? Why would you put that on him? He's my child. But Mendeecees.com and deliberate, stepped in beside Yandy, and his words only made the weight heavier. We didn't start this, he said, his voice low but echoing with finality. It's already out there. People are saying it everywhere. We're not creating this story. We're acknowledging what everyone else is too scared to say out loud. The silence that followed was not peaceful. It was suffocating, like the air itself had been poisoned. For the first time, rumors that had only existed in shadows were spoken by the faces that carried weight in the franchise. And once the words left their lips, they weren't rumors anymore, they were dangerous. Validated whispers with the power to stain reputations forever. Rasheeda crumbled. Her sobs shook her body, her voice breaking as she cried, "You're supposed to have my back. We've all had rumors, but this is my blood." The pain in her tone cracked even the hardest hearts, forcing some cast members to lower their eyes in shame. Still, Yandy didn't back down. Her face softened for a moment, guilt flickering across her expression, but she didn't retract her words. "I'm not your enemy, Rasheeda," she said, her voice still firm. "I care about you. I care about your family. But pretending it isn't being said won't make it disappear. Once the fans start talking, it's unstoppable." The crew exchanged nervous glances. They knew she was right about the fans, but they also knew the cruelty of what had just been planted. Already, people outside the set had begun to hear. Already, word had slipped into the public. Twitter threads were spinning stories, hashtags multiplying. Instagram posts spreading screenshots of overheard drama. The off-camera spat had grown legs and sprinted into the streets before anyone could contain it. Phones buzzed. Cast members scrolled in disbelief as headlines appeared. Yandy Smith calls out Kirk Frost's son. Off-camera explosion leaks to fans. Rumors turn into reality show nightmare. It was happening in real time, and no one could stop it. By the time Kirk arrived on set, summoned by a frantic phone call from his wife. The air was thick with dread. His face carried fury, his jaw clenched so tightly that people instinctively stepped back. He walked straight to Rasheeda, wrapping his arm around her trembling shoulders. And then turned his glare to Yandy and Mendeecees. "What the hell is going on?" His voice was low, but the fire in it made the walls shake. "I'm hearing my boy's name out there, tied to something he ain't got no part of. And now I'm hearing it came from you." Yandy swallowed hard, but she didn't flinch. "Kirk, listen, I didn't make this up. The fans, the blogs, everybody's already saying it. I just said what's being whispered." His face twisted with rage. "You think repeating lies makes it better? You think throwing my family under the bus is some kind of public service? Now you crossed a line. You put a target on my boy's back." His voice boomed across the room, silencing everyone. Even those who had secretly sided with Yandy. Rasheeda begged him not to lose control, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Please, Kirk, don't make it worse," she whispered, clinging to his arm. But Kirk wasn't calming down. His chest heaved, his fists clenched, his eyes burning with a fury that could not be contained. "If anything happens to my son because of this, if he so much as gets threatened, that's on y'all," he spat. "You better pray these rumors die quick." Mendeecees didn't back down either. His tone was calm, but his words carried steel. "We're not your enemy, Kirk. Nobody's saying it's true. Nobody's saying it's proven, but people are already connecting dots. Whether we speak or not, the world's already decided it wants a story, and your boy is in it. That's the reality." The clash between the men shifted the air entirely. This wasn't just about whispers anymore, it was survival, loyalty, and pride colliding in a way that threatened to tear the show apart. Yandy tried to steady her voice, but emotion cracked through. "We know what it feels like, Kirk. We've had lies, rumors, all kinds of stories thrown at us. I know the pain you're in right now, but don't shoot the messenger. I didn't create this storm. I just refuse to act like it doesn't exist." But Kirk was unmoved, his voice rose like thunder. "Don't you dare compare your situation to mine. Don't you dare act like you're doing me a favor by dragging my family into the mud. You made a choice, Yandy, you spoke my son's name. That's on you." The chaos outside mirrored the storm inside. Fans chanted beyond the studio gates, live streaming the noise, demanding answers. Bloggers typed feverishly, piecing together rumors into clickbait headlines. The producers whispered among themselves, debating whether to shut it down or let it ride for ratings. But for Rasheeda, this wasn't television, it was her life unraveling in front of strangers. "Enough." She suddenly screamed, her voice, trembling but powerful. "Do you see what this is doing? This isn't entertainment. This is my child, my family. And you're all standing here like it's just another scene for TV." Her tears streamed, her chest heaved, but her words carried the fire of a mother backed into a corner. For a moment, even Yandy was shaken, but the damage was already done. Once whispers become accusations, there's no way to rewind. And as the night dragged on, with fans outside chanting louder, with social media spiraling out of control, and with producers already fielding calls from the network, one thing became clear. This was not just drama for ratings, this was war, and it was only just beginning. The night after the blow-up was not silent, it was restless. Atlanta pulsed like a wound that refused to heal, with every whisper turning sharper, every rumor cutting deeper. The fallout from that off-camera explosion wasn't locked inside the studio anymore. It had leaked into the streets, into blogs, into every corner of social media where speculation thrived. Fans replayed shaky clips recorded from behind the scenes, piecing them together with their own theories. By morning, hashtags like #KillerRumors and #FrostFamilyDrama were already trending. For Rasheeda, the pain followed her home. Witnesses said she barely spoke in the car, staring out the window as her phone buzzed non-stop with notifications she couldn't bear to read. At home, she broke down again, scrolling through cruel comments that painted her son as guilty of things no one had proven. "They don't know him," she whispered into the quiet of her living room. "They don't know the truth." Kirk paced the floor like a caged animal, rage simmering under his skin. "This ain't just drama anymore," he muttered. "This is life and death. You put that label on a boy in these streets, and you don't know what kind of wolves come sniffing." Meanwhile, Yandy sat at her own home, staring at her phone like it was both a weapon and a curse. She had spoken with conviction in that studio, but now the fallout weighed heavy. Her mentions were flooded, half of fans applauding her for telling the truth, the other half dragging her for tearing down another family. She paced back and forth while Mendeecees sat calmly on the couch, scrolling through the chaos. "You knew this was going to blow up," he said quietly. "But maybe it needed to." His calmness frustrated her. She snapped, "Needed to? Do you see what she's going through? Do you see that woman breaking on camera? She was my friend once, Mendeecees my friend, and I just ripped her open in front of the whole world." But even through her guilt, Yandy couldn't deny the truth. The rumors had been spreading long before she spoke them aloud. Fans had been speculating in secret forums and comment sections for months. She hadn't created the fire. She had only poured gasoline on it. By the next day, the producers were in full panic mode. Meetings ran late into the night as they debated whether to edit out the scene or lean into the scandal and let it ride. Reality TV thrived on chaos, but even for VH1, this felt like dangerous territory. "If we air this as is, we're looking at lawsuits," one producer warned, slamming his hands on the table. Another producer smirked. "Or we're looking at record-breaking ratings." The choice is simple. Their greed was palpable, and for the first time, even the crew began whispering about walking away. This wasn't fun anymore. This was ugly. Inside the Frost household, the atmosphere was heavy with dread. Rasheeda locked herself in her bedroom, crying in silence while Kirk made call after call to lawyers, demanding they prepare for defamation suits. "I don't care if it's Yandy. I don't care if it's the network. Somebody's paying for this." His anger was volcanic, spilling over in bursts as he punched counters, slammed doors, and cursed under his breath. His son stayed quiet, retreating into his own world, shaken by the knowledge that strangers now associated his name with something monstrous. The streets, however, didn't care about evidence or innocence. They cared about noise. By the third day, blogs were running with headlines like, "Yandy Smith exposes killer rumors about Kirk Frost's son. Is this the end of the Frost legacy?" Rasheeda breaks down in tears after shocking accusation. Fans dissected every shaky video, every screenshot, every cryptic tweet, fueling the fire until it felt unstoppable. And through it all, Yandy held her head high in public. But behind closed doors, she wrestled with the guilt. She sat across from Mendeecees late one night, her voice breaking. "Did I just destroy a family?" she asked. He looked at her, steady as always. "No." The whispers were already there. "You didn't destroy them. You just refused to cover your ears." But deep down, she knew the difference between acknowledging a rumor and breathing life into it on camera. Meanwhile, Rasheeda's heartbreak was spilling into anger. At first, she begged for compassion, for the whispers to stop. But as the days went on, something hardened inside her. In a phone call to a close friend, she snapped, "If they want war, they're going to get war. I'm not sitting here letting them paint my boy as a murderer while they play saint. Nah, I'll burn it all down before I let that happen." It was a side of Rasheeda fans had never seen before, a woman willing to fight tooth and nail for her family's name. The next time the cast gathered for filming, the air was electric with tension. No one smiled. No one exchanged small talk. They all knew what was coming. Kirk and Rasheeda walked in first, shoulders squared, eyes cold. Yandy followed with Mendeecees, her chin high but her eyes betraying unease. Producers circled like vultures, eager to capture whatever explosion was about to unfold. The confrontation didn't take long. Kirk slammed his hand on the table, so hard, the cameras shook. "Y'all took this too far," he growled. "This ain't TV anymore. This is my family's life. And I swear on everything, if my boy gets touched because of your mouth, you'll regret it." Yandy's voice trembled, but she stood her ground. "You think I wanted this? You think I enjoy being the one who said it out loud? I didn't, but the streets were already saying it. Kirk, the fans knew before I even opened my mouth, and you know it." Rasheeda cut in, her voice raw with pain. "You call that caring? You call that loyalty? I stood by you, Yandy. I defended you when people dragged your name, and now you put this on my child, my child." Her words cracked, her tears falling freely. The room fell into stunned silence, the cameras catching every quiver of her lips. Mendeecees stepped forward, his tone calm but heavy. "Nobody here wants to see your son hurt, Rasheeda, but silence doesn't erase whispers. We've lived this life long enough to know that rumors grow when they're hidden. Sometimes the only way to kill a rumor is to drag it into the light." His logic did nothing to soothe the wound. Kirk shot him a look of pure venom. "You keep talking about light, but all I see is you throwing shadows on my family. Don't tell me about truth when you ain't got none. You didn't bring light, you brought fire." The argument spiraled. Cast members who had stayed quiet began to choose sides. Some agreed with Yandy, insisting the rumors would have exploded eventually. Others sided with Rasheeda, condemning the cruelty of throwing such a label on someone without proof. The division was sharp, and for the first time, the cast felt less like a family and more like enemies trapped in the same cage. Outside the set, chaos was growing. Fans camped outside with signs demanding justice for the Frosts, while others shouted that Yandy was a hero for speaking the truth. News outlets picked up the story. And suddenly, it wasn't just gossip blogs, it was mainstream. Headlines dragging the Frost name into international spotlight. By the end of the week, the Frosts were receiving threats. Anonymous messages poured in, some taunting, others dangerous. Rasheeda barely slept, jumping every time her phone buzzed. Kirk grew more paranoid, installing new locks, hiring extra security, and vowing revenge on anyone who dared target his family. "This ain't just TV no more," he muttered. "This is war." And in the middle of it all, Yandy began to crumble. She put on a brave face for cameras, but at home, she broke down to Mendeecees. "I thought I was being real. I thought I was showing strength. But what if I was wrong? What if I ruined everything?" Her voice shook, her hands trembling as she buried her face in her palms. For the first time, doubt consumed her. But the wheel was already spinning, and no one could stop it now. Lawsuits loomed. Friendships shattered. Trust dissolved. And the franchise that once thrived on messy drama now stood at the edge of implosion. The whispers that began as rumors had become a tidal wave. And as the world watched, the question wasn't who was right or wrong anymore. It was who would survive the fallout, because in the world of love and hip-hop, once you speak a word like killer, there's no going back.